So here we got Richard back in the old Manitou forklift with the Forager XL on the back. These guys have just installed this thing about a month and a half ago, and previously they were getting flat tires because this is a fence supply company, so they have cut-offs of fence links and all that kind of stuff out here. And steer tires on this forklift were getting flats just from its normal operations around the yard. So since installing this new Forager XL, that they had some input on the design, they actually reached out to us asking for a larger version of the Forager, hence where the Forager XL comes from. And we delivered. So this is the Forager XL that they had some input in designing on their Manitou, and they were concerned about ground clearance because this is a bit of a rough yard. It's not too bad right now, they flattened it out, but there are some areas near the recycling bins that get a bit torn up. So that's where the Forager XL comes in, because you can have it, like they have it about 6 inches off the ground, and they said they've collected a ton of steel out of the yard with this thing. And it's been quite beneficial to prevent flat tires on their skid steers and on the forklift. So you can see with the Manitou here, this thing is built for off-road terrain. Now the reason, they don't really have too much off-road out here. Like I said, it gets a little rough, but nothing crazy. But the reason they wanted this lift truck in particular is for the lifting capacity. They move a lot of steel out here. So they need the 10,000 pound lift capacity of the Manitou, and this is what they ended up with. So this forklift, as you can see, it's got a huge ground clearance, and that Forager XL on the back has that extra magnet power to maintain as much ground clearance as possible while still picking up metal debris. Now, one thing they said they had going on out here was the when they go to the recycling bins, which we'll see later, there are some big gravel piles out there, and he said sometimes he backs into that if there's lumps on the ground or ruts or something. So we're gonna take out the bolts on the back of the Forager XL. That will allow it to swing and not get damaged for backing into anything. So once we get those bolts out, we'll show you the how the approach angle of the magnet doesn't really affect the forklift too much. I mean, obviously you're gonna lose a little bit of approach angle when you have something hanging off the back like this, but with that swinging ability, it doesn't get too diminished from having the magnet on the forklift. So you can see the lift capacity required why they got the Manitou out here, because that's a lot of steel to move around. And if we stuck our original Forager on this thing, it would look pretty puny next to that giant forklift, so that's why we got the XL model, to make sure your forklift doesn't look weird with a tiny magnet on a giant forklift. And extra magnetism is always good. So you can run these things higher off the ground and still collect debris. You can see the wraparound function there working. The guy said he hits some ruts once in a while. And because the magnet housing is fully packed, none of it goes off the back of the magnet. It all just wraps around to the back side of it. So typical debris type for out here is just going to be obviously cut off chain link fence wire, and the Forager XL is more than powerful enough to pick that stuff up. Even at the 6 or 7 inches they got it mounted at, it should pick it up no problem. This forklift doesn't seem to be running around too fast, so that makes it easier to collect the debris as well. We've relocated to the front of the Midwest Gate Fence Supply out here, or Midwest Fence and Gate Company. And we're just gonna go through some normal operation of this thing. This is typically what they do. So like I said in the other videos, the yard isn't actually very rough out here. They have the Manitou just for the lifting capacity it has. But that Forager XL works good on the back of it. It doesn't take out too much ground clearance. This thing has a ton already, but in a yard like this, it's perfect for it, because this lift is so high off the ground, the regular rear mount forklift magnets wouldn't look right on this thing, and they're not going to be up to the task of picking up any kind of metal debris from the height that this thing operates at. So with that Forager XL, you can see we took the bolts out of the back, so now it's swinging freely, and that just prevents any chance of damaging it too badly if you back into something. You get a little bit of notice before stuff really goes wrong. So the front tires on this Manitou are solid, well, they're foam filled, but the steer tires are pneumatic, so they were getting some flat tires out here just from obviously the fence cut-offs, nails from pallets, that sort of thing. And this is their primary lift on location. They don't really have anything else that can move the big pieces of steel like this thing can. So when this goes down, it's pretty expensive for the company, because they got to get somebody out here, number one, to repair the tire, Number two, if they need to move something and they can't, that's just causing downtime for everybody downstream of this machine. So that's a consideration when you're thinking about the price tag of the Forager XL, is how much money is it going to cost you to have this thing down for an afternoon, have your machine down. If this is your primary lift and it goes down for an afternoon, everybody downstream of it, all the workers that need to process the steel it's moving, can't work. This thing can't work, and you got to pay for a new tire. And big tires like this aren't cheap. Yeah, like I said before, if you got a location that needs as much ground clearance as this Manitou, you're probably not too concerned about metal debris because you're probably working on leveling it or actually building something there. But nice flat ground like this, you're never going to have an issue with the ground clearance on this thing. And even if you do bottom it out or anything like that, like I showed in the other video, you got lots of capabilities to not damage the magnet. This thing is built tough. Everything is really thick and reinforced. So if you do break it, you got bigger problems. This thing is built to take a beating. That aluminum sleeve is really durable. And then the steel frame is just, I think the whole thing itself weighs about 200 pounds, so it's really thick steel. And it looks right at home on this big ass forklift. So we'll probably get this thing cleaned off here in a second and just see the typical debris, what these guys pick up. And yeah, that's about it.